Hi all, Andy here, and yes, this is breakdown vlog number 2 that's followed closely on the heels of breakdown vlog number 1. So if you've not seen the first part of this, do click the link above. However, the first vlog did not solve the problem, even though I thought I'd cracked it with the fuel pump. The problem returned on the dash just a couple of days later. It's very intermittent. Let's show you what I can see. Let's look at the dash. If I put the key in and turn the ignition on, you'll see this light comes on here and goes off. So that's a good sign. The immobiliser's now off. Now what was happening here when the problem was evidencing itself is that immobiliser light with the car and the key on it, that symbol there, it basically stayed on. So when I'm cranking the car and turning it over and it won't fire up, that is flashing in time with the current from the car. So I'm going to see if it starts. And it starts fine. And the immobiliser light is not on.
Let's just watch that process again. Ignition on and watch the rev counter. Shows the engine revs, drops away to 0 again, then returns to show revs. It's almost as if the rev counter is not getting a signal from the engine. Engine speed, well, that is measured by the crankshaft speed sensor, and I'll come back to that in a minute.
So I've checked it with a code reader. There are no codes coming up whatsoever.
Even though there is no evidence of codes with my little Bluetooth OBD reader, perhaps something like the more powerful VAGCOM VCDS can find a problem when scanning the car.
Just having a quick look at the car with VCDS. Got Carly having a look at it with VCDS. So far there is no faults. So that's a bit puzzling, because that means, as it stands right now, this intermittent problem is not showing itself anywhere on the car's electricals. Right, so one of the potential problems could be the crankcase sensor. The engine speed sensor has come up as a problem on VCDS. So it could be a crankcase sensor.
I do love calling it a crankcase sensor, don't I? But it's normally called a crankshaft position or engine speed sensor. So I hopped on autodoc.com to order a new crankshaft sensor, and the OEM part number is printed on the sensor cable. The one I took off is a ABE 022906433. It looks pretty original and it has the VAG stamps on it. Before I get this sensor switched out, I do need to give the car a run down to the Simply Audi show. Surely it will behave long enough to get me through this 300-mile round trip, won't it?
Wow, it's 4:30 on a Sunday morning and I'm about to head off to Simply Audi in the 3.2. I'm still not 100% convinced that the breakdown is cured. Fingers crossed I'm going to get through today without a breakdown, but I've got a couple of stops lined up, so hopefully that will give me a good indication if the car is behaving. So let's get going.
If you look at the symptoms that a bad crankshaft sensor shows, you would say it has an awful lot of crossover with my problem. Issue starting the vehicle? Check. Intermittent stalling? Check. Check engine light comes on? Maybe. Uneven acceleration? Well, I thought the car was just being sluggish. Engine misfires or vibrates? Not for me, but it does happen to some. Rough idle and or vibrating engine? Yep. Reduced fuel economy? Well, it's bad in the V6 anyway.
I've just got here, got to the entrance literally 50 yards away. Car died. Problem is back, car just died. And it's been a great show once again. Obviously I've got the panic of trying to get home. Hopefully I will.
After following Car Chris and Kyle back from the show, the car is starting to feel rough at 80 miles. There's still another 45 or so to go, and I am getting an oil pressure sensor light on now too. This might be a false signal though, as the crank position sensor could be making the engine misbehave. Luckily I am able to pull into the services and the boys think it may be a sticking relay, so we swap them all around to no avail.
Well, this is not exactly how I plan to end my day at Simply Audi. Broken down by the M25, waiting for the RAC to come out with two legends that have waited with me in their cars. To say that I'm rather gutted is an understatement, because the car is not behaving. Yeah. So what a really bad end to my day. So
the RAC tried all the things that we had tried and they could not find any obvious issues, so instead they relayed me home the remaining 50 miles, which meant I'd been out the house for 19 hours at this point. Maybe I should have tried that sensor before I left home after all. A few days later, a familiar face popped over to give me a hand fitting the new crankshaft sensor.
So here I am, taking this under tray off again. And look, he's turned up to me now.
Hey, I'm here, yep. We're just trying to sort out the 3.2. Hey, Andy is under at the moment, just removing the under tray.
This is, look at the size of these bolts that come out of it. This is no 225 under tray. So I think we're nearly out now. Just need to remove the two torque bolts. Yeah, give you the camera.
There we go. So that is the sensor out of that hole.
So after much fiddling and faffing, we have got the sensor on. It is an aftermarket one, as it's missing a little tab off it, which has caused us a bit of an issue fitting, as you can see, trying to wrestle your hand down here. But Chris is just putting the finishing touches under the car to the sensor, bolting it back up, and hopefully we'll be in a good position. So here we go, sensor's replaced after 4 hours work with me and Chris. Does it start?
That is the question.
Starting, rev count doesn't kick in straight away, so it'll start and run for 2 or 3 seconds with no revs, but then the rev counter kicks in the joint. So I'm a bit sort of surprised by that. I thought that would be the crankshaft position sensor that's solved that problem, but it hasn't. But so we're going to jump in and go for a little spin. We've just taken the car down the road after doing quite a bit of work on it today. So we've cleaned the camshaft sensors, both of them, and they were chopped up, weren't they? They were filthy. We've also changed the crankshaft position sensor, which was a bit of a pig to do, but we've done that.
A lot more difficult on a 3.2 than it is on a 1.8.
Yeah, Chris can testify to that. We've taken it down the road. We did it, what, a couple of miles, turned the engine off, restarted, and I think it was a bit hesitant, but it did start. We've then taken it back down the road the other way to the station. Didn't turn it off because I was a bit nervous, but we did spin it round, got the car up to temperature, and we've put it into sport mode coming back, and Chris will attest it does go some all right. So I think we are in a good place to test it if it will restart. I've just turned the engine off, so let's see what happens.
Yes, see what happens.
All right, didn't hear the fuel pump that time, but we did just do this off camera with the fuel pump. Ready? Instant, and it's coming back on, which is what it wasn't doing the other day. It was still hesitating and starting.
I think it's a job done.
Mate, if that's a job done, I am well relieved, and I think we've done a good job on it.
Because I think the reason the fuel pump didn't kick in again just then is because obviously we've just done that, and if you want to dig it, so obviously the fuel pressure's already there.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Probably not, the car's probably not asking for any more fuel.
Yeah. So for this part of the vlog, so for episode 2, hopefully this is it done now. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Are we still recording?
Yeah, always recording.